What's going on, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Mind and Mateo. I think this is episode 51. It has been a crazy 2022 to start. I know I kind of say that every episode, but it's very true. I have a son, and he is about 6 months old, and time has been flying, man. He's getting so big. He's already sitting up. He's trying to walk around already, or at least trying to stand. And he's bouncing around. He's just a little ball of energy, and he's not letting me and my wife sleep. So it's been interesting trying to learn how to navigate my new schedule as a dad and as a parent. But I love it. I love that guy, and me and my wife love him so much. Little Sammy is getting big so fast. I think where I left off last time was telling you how I built my business up to $300,000 or $400,000. That's my MSP business, Everything IT Pros. And where I kind of left off with it was there, and I had to take care of a couple things in life. I don't know if I was running away from creating this episode, but in this episode, I'll be talking about how, on the flip side, last episode was, I think, how I built my business with $300,000 or $400,000 in 2 years. And this episode's how I lost $400,000 and start from scratch. And it's very interesting. And in my opinion, to say the least, it's very interesting. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into this. So my business was in business for about 2 years, which is, I guess, that little sweet spot where they say most businesses fail in the first 2 to 3 years. We were tutting along. Everything was going great. If you haven't watched the previous episode, go ahead and look at that. I guess the episode title is a little bit of it wasn't 100% correct, because I didn't really tell you how I built the business. I just kind of told you kind of how the business came to be. And so really the only advice that I have, I guess, to start with before I dive into all the kind of the ugliness is you just got to be consistent. You've got to really hustle at first. I mean, I don't have any formal education. I have a high school diploma in automotive engineering. That's about it. I think I took one college class because my parents kind of forced me to, and it was piano classes for music. And so I knew I didn't want to go that college route. I didn't want all the expense. I didn't want everything that comes along with that. And it just wasn't for me. So I kept working in IT. I could make a lot more money in my mind then. And I got the opportunity to start a business with my dad after he had a health scare and came out on the other side for the better. And so it was really, man, it's just a lot of books, lots of listening to podcasts, and then a lot of action, like massive action. That's the only way that I really got to that 300,000 or 400,000. I mean, there's tips and tricks and stuff like that. I'm not an expert in business, man. I'm still trying to learn. My entrepreneur career has only been about 2 years, a little over. So I'm learning, and as you can see, and as you will find out, I'm learning the hard way, I guess you can say. And so, but yeah, so that's kind of how I put it together. But let's dive right into the topic, which is how I lost $400,000. And yeah, this is really tough for me because just the timing of everything. And I'm going to leave out names and specifics because I don't want to say anything that will offend anyone or any parties involved. I'll put a disclaimer. I appreciate every single person I've ever done business with. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to serve your organization. And I will also put another kind of disclaimer. I believe in hyper responsibility, and the only one to blame in any of this is myself, really, and my lack of knowing or not knowing, I guess you could say, business and these kind of different scenarios and how I should have reacted. So I got to kind of take a look at it. This was last year, 2021. It was before my son was born. I think my wife was, I want to say 7 months pregnant, 7 or 8 months pregnant. No, you know what? I think it was about 6 months pregnant. We had built up the business to, I think we were at around $130,000 of revenue, which is, it's really not a lot of money. That's like super, super small potatoes. And then, the business has two really, it's like 2.25 partners. I mean, it's 3 partners, but it's my dad and my mom. Me and my dad kind of split things almost half and half, and then my mom gets a piece because she helps us out with the finance and all that, while she does her own thing as well on the side. So I mean, we were able to build it up. We got a couple of clients. We got a nonprofit. We've got chiropractors, a couple of them. We had some real estate, like homeowners associations, a couple of those as well. We had a couple of things going on. And then we got this one client, and it was a bit of a bigger client, and they brought us the MSP portion, right? And so we were up, man, I think we were about, yeah, I want to say like 125, 150 of revenue, and we got an opportunity. And I will say this, we got an opportunity that I think we were striving a little too much for. I honestly think we were striving a little too much for. And I think what ended up happening was, well, let me back up. Let me start. And sorry to be all over the place. This is kind of interesting to think out live on camera, but we got an opportunity in a pretty big contract. And I think the contract was bringing in totality, it was like 230 something odd. It's like $238,000 was for the contract. And it was for a 1-year contract with the possibility to flip into another contract. We had another contract that was about 80. I think it was about 60,000. It was up for an increased service level to about 80,000 per year. And that was a 2-year contract. And then we had a couple other smaller contracts before that, and we had a couple larger contracts. Now, we were kind of over, really, if we had kept the contracts, and after, it'll make sense after I explain what happened, we would have been over a $500,000 company. And I say that, and I was super excited. I was like, to think that, me and my dad and my mom, and we could build a company that's viable, and to make anything even close to $500,000, even though it was revenue, it wasn't profit, right? It wasn't after expenses and taxes and all that kind of good stuff, which it's a lot of money if you've ever done business before. So the $500,000 is like, it's super small potatoes, as I've come to learn. But depending on the business and the profit margin, but we got to that point, and I remember beginning of 2021, it was either end of 2020 or beginning of 2021. I have a sheet that I got from Robin Sharma, and it was pretty much like my 5-year plan, right? It was either 5 or 10-year plan, and I was writing everything out for 2021. And my main goals, I had a couple of goals in 2021, but one of my main goals is I wanted to have my wife not have to work full time when my son was born, because I know she wants to take care of him and be able to be a full-time, mom and housewife, and do that for the time being, just to get started. And she had some other things that she wants to do, like launch her YouTube channel and a couple other things that she wanted to focus on. I really wanted to be able, as a man, to provide that for her. And so I've been doing a lot of self-improvement and all this kind of stuff, and business learning and leadership learning and all this kind of good stuff. And so that was my goal, was to make $250,000 of revenue by the end of 2021 going into 2022. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, revenue, but it's really not, especially when you're splitting it a couple ways, and when you've got expenses and you've got contractors and all that kind of good stuff, which we had a contractor here in Atlanta. We had a couple contractors overseas and all that good stuff. And we have a bunch of other third-party vendors that we pay and all this kind of good stuff on top of expenses. So when I remember when we hit that $250,000 mark of revenue, again, don't mix it up with profit, it's revenue. Man, I remember going to my wife, and I remember, man, I'm not gonna cry. I remember going to my wife, and I remember saying, "Babe, I did it. Like, I can't believe it. Like, we're almost there. We did it. Like, I'm going to be able to hit my goal, and to get you to work part-time." And I remember that hitting me, and yeah, and saying and thinking about, wow, really, man, like you know, what started this whole journey of Mind of Mateo and all this, the self improvement, all this stuff, is I came to the realization that I had no idea about what being a man actually meant. And I had grown up and I've been wanting to do music when I was younger and all this kind of stuff. And I had thought I was the ish, man. I thought I was like hot stuff, and I was this pretty boy and I could sing and I was all this in a bag of chips. And it all came crumbling down when I started to learn what it is to be a man. And when my son, when we found out we were pregnant, it hit me like, I got to raise a man. Eventually I got to raise a boy into a man. And I don't even got my stuff straight. So how am I going to raise him if I don't even, if I don't even feel right about myself? How am I going to raise him? And so, that whole thing started this whole self improvement. And so finally I started feeling like, man, I'm finally providing as a man. I'm finally, I mean, I made money in the past, but like, this is the most I've ever done. I'm able to allow my wife to fulfill one of her dreams. And my son is gonna be proud of me as a dad. And yeah, man. Uh and so I hit that 250,000 mark, and then shortly thereafter, I started to realize, wow, that's not a lot of money after you take you pay off your expenses and you split the profit and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's decent, it's good, but it's not the kind of money I would need to retire her, and so, or to allow her to work part-time or whatever it might be. And so, we kept building and getting more clients. But here's the pivotal mistake, right? Here's the pivotal mistake. And I kick myself for doing this. And hopefully this helps somebody out there. If you're in business and you're getting real hot real quick, you're making some money and stuff like that, you haven't really hit critical mass to the point where it's like really life-changing money. Uh, and I hope you learn from my mistakes, which is, I it sounds so stupid, man, when I say it. When you're starting business, you do what you can do to get clients, right? So you'll take on potentially bad contracts where you're not making a lot of money, or you're losing out on money, because you got to get the experience, you got to get the referrals, you got to get the word of mouth, you got to get that under your belt and figure out the whole process. Because 9 times out of 10, you don't know what the heck you're doing as far as going out on your own. I worked in corporate IT and enterprise level. I never did the MSP model, right? I had never worked for an MSP prior to starting an MSP. I just knew corporate IT and taking all that stuff. I knew technology, and same with my dad, with Lewis. He had only worked corporate IT, and he's done contracting and stuff like that, but he had never worked for an MSP either. So us, both not having, or having a lack of knowledge on how to operate MSP, we had to learn. And it started with some bad contracts where we made like no money. I'd say we actually were losing money because we were just giving away labor. And it's okay when it's just you and the founders, and you're doing it, you're building it. But it got real old quick. And so all that to say, I got the contract, and we decided to offload some of the contracts that we originally started with to make more time for us to work on this bigger contract that we just got, and also to focus our efforts and some of the money we were making to reinvesting into finding other clients. And we thought, at least I thought this was smart at first. It's probably the most stupid thing. It even sounds stupid me just saying it out of my mouth, because we hadn't hit the point where we could even do that. Like we were still many steps behind being able to take that step. You can't put all your eggs in one basket or a couple of baskets. Like I will, as God is my witness, I will never put myself in a position where, I've got only 2 or 3 clients or 4 clients that have the majority of my income. I don't want to do that, because you just never know what can happen. And if one of them drops a contract, which I'll tell you about later on, you're kind of up a creek, and it's very, very tough. It's a very scary thing. So anyways, yeah, so we decided to offload a couple of the contracts that were really labor intensive, that we were probably in the red month after month. And so we did that and decided to focus all of our time on this new acquisition, or new client, not acquisition, the new client we had acquired, and then focus on marketing and sales to bring in other clients. And so things were going very well. We got a couple more contracts, right? We updated the service level on one of the clients, the existing clients, and we were humming around. I think we were at 450, like right around that $500,000 mark, with the clients off, the older clients offloaded. So if we had left the clients, we would have been over $500,000 easy. But offloading those clients, we were probably at like between 3 and maybe low fours, mid 3, low fours, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit of time, but yeah, man, we everything's humming. And I remember there was a shift. And like I said, I believe in hyper responsibility, so I don't blame anyone other than myself. But there was a shift in communications with one of the clients, and it was very different, man. We went from being like the best thing since sliced bread to almost feeling like we were defending our integrity and our knowledge. And it was like out of nowhere. I felt like the rug had been pulled from underneath me. And I think what I learned the most from it was, without giving details, I know it's kind of hard, it probably won't make too much sense, but hopefully it makes a bit. I think what I had learned is you can work your butt off, and you can try everything that you believe, everything possible to work to bring value to a client or clients. But if you don't find a way in plain English to express the value that you're creating and you're providing, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I think that's what had happened in this case. And so we had one client that had over $250,000 of contracts, $250,000 of contracts, and things started to go sour. And so oh man, it's tough. Okay, so we're going through this. We're humming a few months. My wife is about I want to say like right at the end of 8 months, going on 9 months, something like that. And my son was born in August, end of August, August 30th. And I remember we had this request for a meeting, and I remember going into the meeting and having to sit there. And I've never waited so long for a meeting. I mean, we were supposed to be there at a certain time, and the meeting didn't end up going until a couple of hours after that. We didn't end up starting. We were just waiting, and had a very tough meeting. And things just seemed to go. They seemed to be okay for a little bit. Like they leveled out, and then things just started to go like really downhill. And yeah, I mean, it was an extremely stressful couple of months. I think, I'm just speaking for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but I was trying to figure out where things went wrong. But I think when you're going through it, you're just kind of rattled, right? You're just trying to figure it out, right? Because here it is. Well, anyways, we'll go. You're just kind of rattled. You're trying to figure it out. And so the thing that I feared the most, and I'm going to be like 1,000% transparent right now, like 100%. I think the one thing I feared the most, I think losing the business scared me a little bit. But what I feared the most was my son being born and having nothing. That really scared me. And so I remember my wife, I'm at the desk here, and I'm doing, I think I'm working or I'm doing something, and I was stressed out, man. I was working a lot of hours, and trying to figure everything out, trying to bring on clients, but feel like I was getting hit from a lot of different directions. And I remember my wife's water broke in the kitchen, and I remember being excited and scared because I'm like, man, here it really is. And the last thing on my mind was work, or any of the things that were going on. And I remember driving her to the doctor's, and getting to the doctor's office, checking in, doing all that. And I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm trying to remember all the classes and stuff I learned to support my wife while she's going through labor. And I remember that I went through, and I we got inside, we got to the room, she's getting ready, she's on the, like, the what is it, the bed for the labor room and all this kind of stuff, and I'm setting up the room, and everything's going. And I remember, we're setting up that process. She's got, like, the contraction, she's feeling a little bit. And um I can't remember exactly when it was, that first day that we got there, but I remember getting a ping, and I remember seeing who it was from, and knowing that, this was that person with that strange thing. And I remember getting that email saying that they were going to withdraw the contract. Oh, man. And I remember, I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about how, like, this is my worst fear, my worst nightmare of, here I am, supposed to be getting ready to go through this great experience with my wife, and to see my son being born, and not being, and here I am, here's my worst nightmare. Feeling like I failed as a man because I have nothing. Like, I literally had nothing at that point. They, like, the biggest, the majority of my contract pretty much had gotten pulled. And oh, man. And I remember sitting there, and I couldn't say anything to my wife because I didn't want to stress her out while she was doing the whole labor process. But I remember that night, um my wife is going through, and she's pushing, and everything's going. She's trying to have a natural birth, so she's feeling a lot of pain. And I remember, okay, well, you know what? At least my son is going to be born, and I have that to look forward to right now. And I remember, man, it did not go any way as I expected. I remember my wife would push and push and push, and she was feeling pain, so she ended up getting the epidural. And then after the epidural, they had to hit her, not with pitocin, but with something else to help the contractions. And we just got to a point where my son was coming down, and he got stuck in the pelvis area, and he wouldn't come down. And then his heart kept dropping and all this kind of stuff. And my wife labored for 5 hours. Um, and before the labor, I think before the 5 hours, sorry, she pushed for 5 hours. And before the 5 hours, we were waiting for her contractions to pick up for quite a few hours. And then, and then my wife had to ended up having to get a C-section, and there was, some interesting stuff that happened there. It was very scary and all this kind of stuff. And man, all that to say, and I'll do another episode about all that, but all that to say, I just remember feeling a feeling I've never felt before. Um, and when you have that feeling of just fear and inadequacy, uh it was tough. And I think the next month or two was very tough because what ended up happening is, that was one contract with a client, and then they ended up pulling another contract, the other contract, which was like 80K a year, something like that, over 2 year contract with 80K a year, something like that. And I remember, man, at that point, I, you know, I had nothing. Literally, my business made no money. My contractors made more than me for a couple months. I had to let go of, stop utilizing some of the contractors I had. I had to do everything I could do to try and cut costs and all that kind of stuff. And then, man, I had convinced. I talked with this person that I care about very deeply, and I was so convinced that I was close to, being able to help them full time and all this kind of stuff and start upping their hours, and I was committed to that and being able to help them as well, and increase and further their career and help them out, and then I had to let that person go for the time being. And I remember, man, it was just tough. No lie, very tough. I don't know if it was the toughest thing. I don't think it's the toughest thing I had to go through, but just watching it all kind of fall apart. My last 2 years of my life that I spent building this thing just fall apart into pieces. And yeah. Yeah. So that's how I I guess that's how I lost, you know, $300,000 to $400,000, 400,000 in a short window. But I guess the key takeaways that I'd like to say about this, and what I've learned, because it took me quite a few months to bounce back from that. And that's honestly why I haven't really been recording too much, is I needed some time to kind of figure myself out, because I think I was going through the whole grieving process for a portion of it for a couple months, because I had hit this level of momentum, and I was networking with a lot of different people, and I was rubbing shoulders with a bunch of different businesses, and there was so much potential in the air, and I was hitting this point where, like, man, things are really going to start to take off, and I was reinvesting money. So I didn't keep much money. I was trying to grow the business as fast as possible and as big as I could get it. And I think that the key takeaway, if I can help anyone who may have either not gone through this yet or maybe going through this, is this: if you haven't experienced what I just said about losing it all, I heard somebody say this. I think it was like I think it was Brunson that said this, that entrepreneurs go through a cycle where they go through this high and then they come crashing down, and then they go through a high and they come crashing down, and it's different cycles. And this will definitely be my first cycle. But what I learned from it is this: if you're on the point of building your business and you're on the way up, don't underestimate how quickly it could fall apart. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to help you stay focused and motivated. Whatever you think you need to go and quit your job, whatever you think you need to really start paying yourself well, whatever you think you need in order to feel like you made it, double it, easy, double it, triple it, because the buffer that you think you have, I'm just going to say, I mean, I'm not an expert, but it's most likely not enough. It really isn't. It's most likely not enough. So, don't get comfy. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't feel like you're further along than you are. And I don't say, like I said, not to scare you or demean or anything like that, but it's hopefully so that you don't have to experience kind of the way that I experienced it. Right. And you can continue to grow and expand at a rapid but consistent pace. If you've already gone through something similar or maybe worse, I'll tell you this: take the time that you need to get your head straight and then get back right in the fight, because you're not going to gain anything by feeling sorry for yourself. You're not going to gain anything by staying stuck in the valley, right? And at the end of the day, what you need to understand is you're not starting over from the same place where you originally started from, right? You're not that same person you were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago when you started doing whatever it is that you're doing. You've grown so much and you have so much experience that you have not lost. That can't be taken away from you. That's part of you now. You have grown. You're not the same person. You're a different man or different woman, right? You are different and better than when you had started, before you had gone through this kind of thing. So don't allow yourself to tell yourself a lie that you're starting over, because you're not. You're not starting from scratch. You're picking up from a different point, from a point that's way far ahead. And guess what? If you did it once, you can do it again and you can do it better. That's the truth of it. If you did it once, you could do it again and you can do it better. It's a formula. It's not super complicated. It's not easy. Not by any means easy, but you can do it. So that's the two things I want to share from my experience. And hopefully, I know it's kind of a little all over the place. This is really tough for me right now to talk about this. I'm still kind of working through it, but you know what? I'll tell you right now. What I've also learned from this is this. Oh, before I go into that, also another side tip: don't put your eggs all in a couple baskets. Don't put your eggs in a couple baskets. Make sure that you spread out your revenue over many clients. And if you've got 1 or 2 clients that are the backbone of your business, cool. But do whatever you can to acquire more clients, right? Acquire more clients, make more sales. Because if for some reason, for whatever reason that may be, if you screw up, if they screw up, whatever it could be, somebody wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever it is, if they decide to pull the revenue that you're expecting, or if a couple clients decide to bring their business elsewhere, it could be devastating. It really could. But the one thing that I want to tell you is that for myself here, whether it has brought a level of grit that I didn't have before. It has changed the way that not only I see the world, but I see myself in a great way, in a positive way. And I've got this fire inside of me that was there before, but is even hotter and brighter right now. I've got this burning passion for business and to continue to grow as a man and to be successful and to be a better husband and to be a better father. I think, and I'm thankful for every single thing that I've gone through. I'd rather go through this now when I'm still kind of small potatoes, talking about a couple $100,000 of revenue, than to go through something like this way further ahead when you're talking millions. And even then, I don't know, maybe there's another cycle up ahead. But what I do know is this: I'm going to keep moving forward. And so should you. You shouldn't give up. You shouldn't let it stop you. Take a little bit of time. Take the time that you need to get your head on straight. Get back in there and get in the fight and go make your dream possible. Become the best person that you can be. Take care of your family. I love y'all. And until the next time.